Part 7. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 62. Do you have any rules? Huang Manor, your mother's family has already sent a letter, saying that they will take you back by the end of the month at the latest. You are not young anymore, so you should go back and get married. It is natural for him to be partial to his own daughter. Mo Shaokai is just an orphan, he picked him up and raised him, and it is only natural that he prefers his own flesh and blood. Mo Shaokai has not lacked food and drink these years, and he has lost sight of his identity. I don't want to get married under Ning's conscious connivance. Huang Manor's character became very arrogant and willful. Even if Mo Shaokai wanted to marry such a wealthy lady, he couldn't stand her temper at the moment. Tao Rangxing did not teach Huang Manor any Taoist skills. Instead, he asked Ning to teach her reading and literacy, which gave her a half-toned character. She was good at everything but not proficient in anything. More importantly, she was not interested in learning at all. They no longer have the patience, because the Huang family originally sent her to the mountain to keep fit, so Tao Rangxing often drew fitness charms for her to eat and asked her to practice some foreign martial arts. Now Huang Manor's skin has become much tanned and her figure has improved. She is very stout, and since she is not very tall, it appears that her figure is not slender and delicate. It is completely different from the appearance of Miss Chiao when she first went up the mountain. Ning glanced at her husband and gave Tao Rangxing a funny look, then she gently comforted Huang Manor and went away. Mo Shaokai was clamoring to go down the mountain with a very firm attitude. Tao Rangxing couldn't help but sneered when he saw that he was going to die. Stand up. Since you want to go down the mountain, I have no reason not to allow it, but if you can't learn Kung Fu on your own, it will be embarrassing if you are embarrassed, or if you lose your life. Don't blame me as a master for not warning you. Mo Shaokai couldn't help being shocked when he heard that he might die, but then he thought that Lily had gone with him this time, and there was no reason for his senior brother to stay in the mountain, so he gritted his teeth and agreed. Baiwan town is about 2 days away from Mission, but fortunately, the Lu family sent a sedan to come here, which made it faster. Lily also had to face a demon for the first time, and she couldn't help but feel a little scared. When she went down the mountain on the first day, everyone rested at the foot of the mountain for the night. The Lu family arranged for the 4 masters and apprentices to live in an inn in a small town at the foot of the mountain. Lily had just gotten off the sedan chair and entered the inn when she saw that the inn was already full of people. One of them was about 17 or 18 years old, with red lips and white teeth. When the young man with a very feminine appearance felt someone coming in from outside, he subconsciously raised his head and glanced this way. His eyes were so dark that there was no blemish at all. His face was as white and tender as jade, and his lips were red and alluring. When Huang Manor saw this young man, her eyes couldn't help but reveal a look of astonishment. During these years when she was imprisoned in the mountains, the most men she saw were either Taoist priests or Taoist priests. Mo Shaokai. At this moment, this young man was wearing white clothes and had black hair like a waterfall. Holding a glass of wine in his hand, he raised his eyes when he looked at people, showing an indescribably charming style. Ahi, look at that brother, he is so handsome. Ahi, can you help me ask him what his name is? Huang Manor's eyes were about to drip with water, and she subconsciously wanted to call Lily. She also regarded Lily as her 12-years-old look at the girl before who let her bully her. Lily sneered, feeling a sense of crisis in her heart for no reason. This young man gave her a very dangerous feeling. He was obviously very handsome, but for some reason, when his eyes fell on her, goosebumps appeared on Lily's back, and she felt like she wanted to run away on the spot. Her heart made her tremble involuntarily. Ah hey, did you hear what I said? Seeing that Lily ignored her, Huang Manor felt a little unhappy and yelled at Lily. Lily ignored her at all and instead glanced at Tao Rangxing. Seeing that he didn't seem to care about her at all. She didn't notice the weirdness of this young man, so she couldn't help but frown, and leaned over gently. "Dad, have you seen that man? I think he is very dangerous." When she finished speaking, she looked out of the corner of her eye. Seeing that the young man's eyes seemed to be curled up, his bright red lips grinned, and his tongue stretched out to lick his lips, as if he had seen some supreme delicacy, which made Lily feel very dangerous. "Don't talk nonsense. Maybe there are people down here who have practiced some kind of martial arts. The world is so big that there are all kinds of wonders. Don't look at a person who is young, but it may be because he has practiced Taoism, so he looks particularly young." Taoran was deeply excited. He was afraid of his daughter because he was a simple man in the world. If he offended some old monster, and he didn't see anything weird about this young man, he had no choice but to lower his head and comfort his daughter with a few words. The housekeeper, surnamed Lu, had already reserved the room. Lily felt something was wrong in her heart and subconsciously opened her eyes to see the young man. Unexpectedly, as soon as she opened her eyes, she suddenly saw a sinister wind blowing in front of her eyes, and the darkness was so thick that it could not be dissipated. In the fog, a pair of scarlet eyes rushed towards her, and two snow-white fangs frightened Lily so much that she almost screamed. Although Lily had been studying Taoism for many years, this was the first time she saw such a scene. If it weren't for she has lived several lifetimes, and she is still barely able to hold on. Otherwise, if it were her first mission, she would have collapsed on the ground on the spot. Tao Rangxing saw something strange about his daughter, and when he saw her pale complexion and cold sweat covering her head, the boy with bright red lips grinned widely. He knew in his heart that his daughter might have suffered a loss, and Lily's methods made Tao Rangxing feel in his heart. It is also clear that even if Tao Rangxing lives for decades, he may not be able to have the skills of his daughter. He is no match for someone who can't even deal with his daughter. He is now deeply worried that his daughter will offend these weird people. Hurriedly pulled her daughter and stepped forward to apologize. "Senior, my surname is Tao, and I am a descendant of the Tao family in Mission. I don't know how high the sky is, so I hope you will forgive me if I have offended you in any way." The young man in white looks to be only 17 or 18 years old, but people cannot be judged by their appearance. Some people who look like they are around 17 or 18 years old may have lived for 117 or 80 years, and some have practiced Taoism. After that, it was impossible for a person with good looks to let others guess how old he was. At this moment, Tao Rangxing apologized. There was a smile on the corner of the young man's mouth, but there was a sinister look in his eyes. He just waved at him. He waved his hand and motioned for Lily to stretch out his hand. The closer Lily got to this person, the more frightened she felt. She dared to stretch out her hand. She only felt a cold feeling coming towards her when she was standing in front of this young man. But the strange thing about this man was that there was no demonic aura at all. Lily was frightened and shook her head to take a few steps back, but Tao Rangxing held her tightly, fearing that she would make the young man in front of her even more unhappy. "Dad, let's go." Her heart was beating very fast. This instinctive sense of danger was like a little rabbit meeting a tiger and a wolf, which made her very scared. Tao Rangxing didn't understand why she was so rude and felt a little bit in her heart. Unhappily, Huang Man'er said softly, "Brother, this is my junior sister Ahe. It's a pleasure to meet you." Although she didn't know why she had such a sense of fear, Lily could feel that the boy in front of her didn't look like a ghost even if he didn't have any demonic aura. After all, he had a physical shadow, but he was definitely not an ordinary person. She seeing Huang Man'er committing suicide, she couldn't help but sneer in her heart. She was about to speak, but no sound came out when she opened her mouth. The young man stood up, and everyone and everything around him seemed to be frozen with his actions. Like this, Lily opened her mouth but could no longer speak. He grinned slightly, the two canine teeth glowed with a snow-white cold light, and paired with the bright red lips, it gave an even more eerie feeling. "My name is Rong Li," you remember. After he finished speaking, he stretched out his hand to pull Lily's hand up. His hand was cold to the bone. Lily couldn't describe the cold feeling in words, as if it was ice colder than the cold winter. The pool was still cold to the bone, and the cold seemed to be carved into her soul. She shivered, and the young man who called himself wrongly quickly scratched the palm of her hand. With the movement of his fingertips, the bone-chilling feeling seemed to be integrated into her bones. Soon the young man finished writing and smiled gently. His figure was like water dripping into the tranquil lake. After a while, it rippled and gradually disappeared. After the others left, the soft feeling seemed to remain on Lily, causing her to shiver involuntarily. As soon as she finished shivering, Taorangzing and the others seemed to have just woken up from a dream, and the inn began to move. After the deathly silence just now, the sounds of drinking and punching resumed, and Lily felt a strange feeling in her heart. Taorangzing then patted his head. "I'm really dizzy." "Why are you walking here for no reason?" His words made Lily feel even more strange about the boy in white just now, and the chill in her heart was even worse. What's more important was the palm that was scratched by the boy in white. Now it was so cold that it hurt, as if the blood had stopped flowing. Lily couldn't help but run the 9-yang manual in her body faster, but after running the 9-yang manual, her arm felt better. But the next moment the chill became deeper, making one of her hands stiffen. "Dad, didn't you see the man in white just now?" Lily suppressed the fear in her heart and asked Taorangzing softly. Before Taorangzing could speak, Amo Shaokai said impatiently, "What? The man in white and the man in black, where did the man in white come from in this inn? Do you think he is here to attend a funeral?" Amo Shaokai felt hungry at the moment, and Taorangzing didn't want him to go on this trip. He came over shamelessly, very dissatisfied with Taorangzing, and it seemed that only by scolding Lily in such an angry voice could he regain some sense of balance in his heart. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 63. Lily didn't have time to argue with him at the moment. The young man came and left suddenly. And after he left, these people didn't seem to notice that he was missing. The drinker sitting opposite him still looked the same, as if he didn't even know he was missing. She didn't feel that there was no one missing on the opposite side. Lily herself had also practiced Taoism and martial arts. It seemed that she had never seen anyone with such magical powers in so many years. She trembled with excitement in her heart, and she couldn't help but become even more frightened. There are too many unpredictable things in this world, and not all of these people are kind to her. The boy's hand just passed across her palm, and now she can still feel the cold and biting feeling. Lily, this mission had not been completed yet, and she was really unwilling to give up so easily. She bit her lip, her face was white, but there was some determination in her eyes. At midnight, her whole body felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. The feeling of being surrounded by cold air made Lily's night particularly uncomfortable. She couldn't see it with her eyes closed. There was a bit of green light on his face, and he looked sinister. When she woke up the next day, it was logical that for a person like Lily who had practiced Taoism and had not fallen behind in martial arts, even if she had not slept all night, it would not have much impact on her. However, she was actually beaten the next day. Amo Shaokai woke him up. After waking up, he shivered with cold. Although the weather was cold now, it was at least much better than in winter. What's more, after practicing the 9-yang manual, it was impossible for Lily to. She was no longer afraid of the cold, but she was very cold now, and the 9-yang manual seemed to have no effect. She was shivering from the cold. "I can't remember what the boy looked like yesterday. The only thing I remember in my heart is his red lips. Why do you get up so late? With your appearance, what qualifications do you have to be my wife in the future?" Amo Shaokai was very impatient. The more he looked at Lily, the more he disliked her. He just thought she was pretending to be ill and cursed. Yes, Lily had a headache, and now she was even more upset when he thought about it. Hearing this, he couldn't help but sneered, "When did I say I would marry you?" Now that she has decided to take charge of the Tao family, it is ridiculous that Mo Shaokai still seems to think that the Tao family will be handed over to him in the future. After so many years, he has not seen Tao Rangxing's decision clearly. Lily doesn't know what to do with this person at the moment. What kind of idiot should I say? He snorted, and the arm that had been scratched yesterday started to feel faint pain again. "What are you still doing?" "Butler Lu is ready to go." Tao Rangxing came over and saw his daughter lowering her head. Mo Shaokai had an unhappy look on his face. He thought that Mo Shaokai had given Bai He a hard time and couldn't help but give him a cold look. "Follow me." After Tao Rangxing said this, he quickly turned aside and wanted to stay. Huang Man'er, who came down, also called. Lily's palms were hurting so much that she waited for the others to leave. He opened his palms and was shocked at the sight. "Cold sweat broke out on my back." The word "wrongly," which seemed to have a trace of blood flowing through the green, appeared on the place where the white-clothed boy scratched it yesterday. The two words seemed to be alive. At this time, the font size was getting larger and larger, and the words in the middle were bigger and bigger. The blood streaks seemed to be swimming in her palm, and Lily almost shed tears. She quickly called Tao Rangxing, who was not far away, and said, "Dad, I have something to tell you." Mo Shaokai snorted coldly and pulled Huang Man'er away. Tao Rangxing frowned, and when Lily showed her hand, he was startled. "Ah hey, how did you get here?" Tao Rangxing said while raising his daughter's palm to look at it. But for a while, he didn't realize that this only daughter was not only Tao Rangxing's only flesh and blood, but also his only hope for a prosperous Tao family. He was so worried that something would happen to her that he was so anxious that his lips almost got angry. Lily told what happened yesterday, and Tao Rangxing was so frightened that he trembled all over. "Such an expert, I didn't even notice anything wrong." This shows how skilled he is, but why would he attack you? The ancestors of the Tao family didn't seem to have any grudges with any powerful people, let alone the Tao family who had grudges with others. He, the only man from the Tao family, was still alive, and the young man in white that his daughter talked about couldn't let him go and go find him. "Lily, ignore this for now. When the Lu family's matter is settled, Dad will take you to the Genji sect to ask." Tao Rangxing's heart was heavy. After such a thing happened, he was now very concerned about earning $5. 10 taels of silver lost a lot of interest. If he hadn't brought his daughter down the mountain in order to make money, he might not have met the young man in white that he had completely forgotten. The daughter he had placed great hopes on would not have ended up like this. Tao Rangxing caught the Lu family's fox very hard. He didn't have time to refine the fox demon at the moment. If he hadn't been afraid that letting her go might cause her to return to the Lu family to harm others, Tao Rangxing would have killed the fox. The fox named Bai was released. Although the Genji sect is also in mission, the direction is different from that of the Tao family. Therefore, when Tao Rangxing returned home, he took his daughter and Mo Shaokai and took another road. Lily's condition has become more serious in the past 2 days. Her hair often formed green frost unconsciously. Tao Ran was so anxious that he didn't delay in finishing the Lu family's affairs. He didn't even dare to let him stay for one night. Stay and prepare to go home directly. Huang Man'er was very unhappy. It was a rare trip for her to go down the mountain. She originally wanted to have a good time, but she didn't expect that Tao Rangxing was about to leave just after she left the house. She refused to leave, insisting on having a good time. Tao Rangxing was now he only cared about his daughter and didn't care about messing around with Huang Man'er. He sneered twice, threw Huang Man'er's luggage out and let her do what she wanted. It only took half a day to separate. When he was about to enter the next village, Tao Rangxing saw the evil spirit of the village not far away. At this time, he had to go back and start again. He had already been delayed for a long time. As time went by, his daughter's health condition became more and more serious. Tao Rangxing gritted his teeth and decided to walk through the village and run all the way to Mission. After all, this was at the foot of Mission Mountain. He knew that even if there was any danger inside, the dangerous heavenly masters would be able to get the news and rush over within an hour or two at most. Master, look! Mo Shaokai, who had a gloomy look on his face, suddenly seemed to have seen something and pointed towards Tao Rangxing anxiously. At this moment, the blood all over Lily's body seemed to be frozen. When she heard Mo Shaokai's voice, she still reluctantly raised her head. Her eyes widened at the sight. There was a corpse hanging on a dwarf mulberry tree not far away. The clothing material looked very familiar. Before Tao Rangxing could say anything, Mo Shaokai ran over and picked up the corpse. He shouted in surprise, "It's Manor." Huang Manor's face was so pale now that she had no trace of blood, and her body was very thin, as if most of her blood had been drained. Tao Rangxing screamed, and said in a hurry, "Let her go quickly. Open her neck and see if there is." Before he finished speaking, Mo Shaokai let out a strange cry. Huang Manor, who was already too dead to die, moved a little, and actually let out a strange sound from his mouth. With a cry, two fangs protruded from his lips and bit Mo Shaokai's neck. The two of them were so close, Mo Shaokai should have been bitten by this moment, but I don't know if people will show up with strength beyond ordinary people's imagination in critical moments. Mo Shaokai suddenly hit Huang Manor. Pushing away, he screamed strangely and rushed towards Tao Rangxing with howling ghosts and wolves. What happened just now that Huang Manor was still moving after her death frightened him out of his mind. Although he studied Taoism in Mission, Mo Shaokai also knew that these weird things were nothing to a Taoist priest, and he would even be a Taoist in the future. But although he said well, when things came to an end, he had already forgotten Tao Rangxing's usual teachings and just ran away. It turned out to be a zombie. Tao Rangxing was also very frightened. There was his daughter beside him. He had never encountered such a thing as a zombie twice in his life. At this moment, he didn't even have the talisman paper in his bag in his hurry. He just watched helplessly. Seeing Huang Manor rushing toward them with her mouth open and a ferocious expression, Tao Rangxing could only stamp his feet for a moment, run away first. We'll deal with it later. As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Shaokai probably didn't expect that Tao Rangxing couldn't do anything about this thing, so he turned around and ran away first. When Tao Rangxing saw it, he felt angry and anxious, and cursed twice. The zombie that Huang Manor turned into rushed towards Tao Rangxing, but when she saw Lily, her body shrank, as if she was a little scared. "Dad, please go first." Lily's heart sank. She was not afraid of seeing this zombie. This was the first time she saw this thing. The hair on her back also stood up. She was scared, but she still remembered herself. What is the mission? In fact, Lily is not afraid of death. She has done so many missions and died several times. The key is that she still has some instinctive fear of zombies, not to mention that she cannot let Tao Rangxing die. Tao Beihi's wish is to keep Tao Rangxing alive and not die in Mo Shaokai's hands, at least not at this time. Lily must stand in the way for the mission. Tao Rangxing was stunned for a moment. He turned around and saw his daughter's determined face. Just when he gritted his teeth and wanted to risk his life, Lily shouted again, "Father, let's go first. The Tao family still depends on you." After hearing Lily's words, Tao Rangxing's face showed an expression of emotion. He was not that kind of indecisive person. At this moment, Huang Manor turned into a zombie, and it seemed that his cultivation level was not low. It was better to hook up with one than two, and even more. What's more, Tao Rangxing knew that his daughter's strength was higher than his own. If she stayed, she wouldn't be able to deal with Huang Manor, and he would just die if he stayed. Thinking of this, Tao Rangxing gritted his teeth and said a few words. Good girl, Dad misjudged you before. You have to be good. Dad goes to the Genji sect to hire someone. Just hold on for a while. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 64. After saying this, Tao Rangxing ran away without looking back. Huang Man'er let out a frightening scream and rushed towards him, but Lily shook the package on her back, held back her hand that was no longer flexible, and began to form hand seals, 5 thunder curse. I don't know if it was because the hand seals were not well formed after the hands were cold, but the 5 thunder curse, which was so easy to use on weekdays, actually didn't show up even after Lily called it several times. As a result, Huang Man'er was a little scared, no matter how scared she was. Angry, he screamed and rushed towards her. After turning into a zombie, Huang Man'er was extremely strong. Her nails were like steel blades. She scratched Lily's clothes and made a hole in her clothes. Blood flowed out from her arms. The blood seemed to contain green. When Huang Man'er smelled the particles, she was a little scared at first, and then she seemed to show greed and rushed towards Lily. Lily was also scared now. She didn't know why her blood had become like this. It seemed impossible to kill the evil now. She dodged Huang Man'er's attack in a panic. She tried to use blood to suppress the evil, but also tried after passing the seal. It still had no effect in the end. The talisman that was usually tried and used very flexibly seemed to have lost its effect in an instant. Lily's heart felt cold. She had suffered many injuries on her body. Huang Man'er seemed to have changed. She became even more crazy, but for some reason, she didn't seem to have any symptoms of the corpse poison. She felt a chill in her heart, seeing Huang Man'er was about to pounce on her. When her body became stiff and unable to dodge, Lily had no choice but to draw a talisman with her blood in the air. She had never succeeded in this move before, so she thought it would be in vain now. Unexpectedly, the blood gradually condensed in the air. When Huang Man'er rushed over, Lily felt happy and shouted, "Go!" The drawn talisman flew towards Huang Man'er, and amid Huang Man'er's strange screams, she was firmly pressed to the ground, making it impossible for her to turn over again. I finally succeeded. Unexpectedly, the spell that was usually successful failed to work this time. I used the blood void to draw the talisman that I couldn't usually use. The critical moment turned out. Lily seemed to understand something. When she sat down on the ground panting, a large amount of black mist appeared around her. A white figure slowly walked out of it. Lily took a bite first. Shock. But when I saw that the man was walking instead of jumping or other postures, I breathed a sigh of relief. Although she didn't know much about zombies at this time, Tao Rangxing once told her about walking zombies, jumping zombies, etc. Huang Man'er was the lowest zombie just now, and she didn't know why magic couldn't deal with her. If one more person appears, today is really doomed. When she saw that it was a person who came out, Lily felt happy and was about to speak, but when she saw the figure clearly, her heart sank. We meet again, Miss Tao. The young man in white, whom he had met only a few days ago, now had a face as beautiful as a crown jewel, and his lips were so red that they were a bit delicate. He walked straight to Lily and squatted down. When you look closely, you can see a circle of dark green light around his eyes. If it weren't for the close distance between the two of them, Lily would never be able to see it. The origin of this young man is mysterious, but the key is that he seems to be very powerful. He didn't even look at Huang Man'er, who was pinned to the ground by a blood curse. He looked at Lily and said something in his mouth. "It's amazing, Miss Tao, you are still alive. although it doesn't look like you are living well. He showed a look of disgust. At this moment, Lily's body was mostly soaked in blood, and her clothes were hung in a mess. Everywhere on her body was torn. When she thought of this young man's behavior of scratching her palm with his fingers, she couldn't help but feel even colder in her heart, with a hint of determination. "Wrongly, who are you?" The boy in white clothes seems to have some sinister aura lingering around him, which makes people feel very uncomfortable. But strangely, he has no evil aura about him. Sometimes, it is the worst time to see clearly the bottom of others and wait for your own results. It was torture, and Lily's face turned even uglier, but as soon as she said the words, the young man in white's eyes lit up involuntarily. "Wrongly, you call me wrongly? Didn't you say your name is Wrongly? Now we are in a strange environment. There is a zombie who is not dead at all. In front of us is a strange person or monster who seems to be very powerful and whose origin cannot be seen." Lily, my heart tightened. Now that I saw that this young man not only had a strange background, but also spoke so strangely, I almost couldn't hold it back and was about to curse. The young man was rebuked by her in a bad tone. Not only did he not fall out, but he was actually a little happy. "My name is Wrongly, are you angry? Are you talking nonsense?" Although she knew that the young man named Wrongly in front of her was very dangerous, Lily still couldn't hold it back and replied again. Wrongly tilted his head, and his face was so charming that it made people feel sad. A childlike and innocent smile appeared on his cold and handsome face. "So this is nonsense, this is anger, and I am angry too." He was still smiling just now, but as he spoke, his face suddenly turned pale. He became gloomy, and his eyes showed a somewhat inhuman look, which made Lily feel numb with fear and at the same time at a loss. She had never seen such a person who said he would fall out immediately, and she couldn't recover for a moment. Wrongly had a look on his face that regarded human life as trivial, but in the blink of an eye, he smiled again. He stood up, revealing two sinister white canine teeth. "Is that so?" Lily's lips moved, but she didn't say what she wanted to ask him whether he should give up treatment and continue taking medicine. She knew that although Wrongly was talking to her in front of her, his personality seemed to be unstable, and he was happy. Anger is also very elusive. It seems that killing a lot of people is not that difficult for him. For people with a sense of right and wrong, killing people is a kind of psychological torture for them. It is possible to deal with such a person. To be clear, what he fears most is the kind of person who doesn't even have a sense of right and wrong. Killing is as natural to him as breathing. Lily has a hunch that this Wrongly is the kind of extremely dangerous person. "Is that so?" Wrongly asked again. His expression darkened. Lily saw his fingertips move and subconsciously put her hands behind her back. "What are you going to do?" She looked wary. Wrongly seemed to have discovered something interesting and subconsciously moved towards her. Lily grabbed her by the collar and shouted sternly, "I'm not a prostitute." Wrongly was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed, as if he was leaning forward and backward with laughter. He stood up and waved to Lily. She stood up involuntarily. Wrongly saw that her cheeks were flushed. He looked red and couldn't help but laugh. "You are so interesting, I can't bear to kill you." This man acted like a lunatic. He acted this way and that for a while. Lily suspected that he was playing tricks on her, and her face turned blue with anger. Huang Manor struggled twice on the ground. The blood curse did not completely suppress her because of Lily's physical problems. Wrongly flicked his fingers. Huang Manor didn't even make a sound, and the whole person turned into there was a pool of green smoke, and when the wind blew, even the shadow disappeared. This move made Lily's expression even more pale. Wrongly was about to walk into the black fog. Lily saw the black fog getting thicker and thicker around her. She couldn't even see the road in the direction where Chao Rangxing and others left just now. She felt in her heart a little hairy. She wanted to run away, but as soon as her feet moved, she retreated in the opposite direction. Not long after, Kung Fu Rong Li's figure appeared in Lily's eyes. She involuntarily walked backwards into the black mist, her face white as snow. Looking at Rong Li's back, he quickly shouted. "Don't go, it's dangerous inside." Rong Li's voice seemed to be filled with a smile, but upon closer inspection, it was cold as if there was no emotion at all. "Where is the danger? Are you afraid? Call me Rong Li." Lily was indeed a little scared, but now this feeling of being out of her control made her even more uncomfortable. She knew it was Rong Li's fault without having to guess, so she frowned and said. "You let me go first. Did you do it? I don't want to walk backwards. I don't feel comfortable. Let me go. It's very dangerous here. The two of us are better than you alone. If we meet, if something goes wrong, there will be someone to take care of you." "Take care? Two people?" Rong Li laughed again. This time he stopped. When Lily walked in front of him, he followed Lily. In this way, Lily was walking backwards, and Rong Li was walking backwards. Isaiah was facing her. It felt even worse to have no one behind her. The black fog in front of her was getting thicker and thicker. She didn't have any eyes on her back. Seeing a Rong Li in front of her who was so handsome that she almost didn't look like a real person, Lily was almost scared to death. This kind of unknown, the feeling was the scariest, and she almost cried. "Rong Li, please don't do this first. I don't want to walk backwards." "Why don't you want to?" As soon as Lily finished speaking, Rong Li frowned and waved. Sure enough, she stopped. This time she turned around and walked away from the front. She still couldn't help but walked away with her back. Cheng Rong Li said, "Don't you think this is good? Why do stupid mortals always have so many reasons?" What he said was inexplicable, and Lily was angry and couldn't hold it back. "Stupid mortal? Aren't you human? What's more, there are so many reasons why, I just don't want to." Rong Li sighed, "You are right, I want to be a human being." "Are you sick?" The feeling of being unable to control her body was very bad at this moment, which made Lily gradually become a little impatient, and her tone became bad. "What on earth are you going to do?" "I want to go home." "What did you do for me? I can't even move my arms now." The strangeness of her arms in the past 2 days and the weird scene at this time made Lily feel very unhappy. I don't know if it was because of extreme fear that her temper changed. She became furious, knowing that she couldn't easily anger Rong Li in front of her, but she still couldn't control it. "Let me go, I'm going back." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 65. I'm sorry. Rong Li was silent for a while, as if he was considering Lily's proposal, but in the end he still shook his head. "I don't want to let you go back yet." What he said was that he didn't want to, not that he couldn't. Lily was so angry that she finally ignored him. Rong Li gave people a very dangerous feeling when they first met. But after Lily spent a long time with him, she found that this man was unexpectedly very simple in a certain aspect. He seemed to know a lot. In the evening, he watched Lily practice Taoism. During the exercise, he had dismissed it and taught Lily a set of inexplicable oral skills. Lily didn't believe him at first, but after trying to practice for a while, she found that this inexplicable Taoist mental method seemed to be far better than Tao Ran. Seeing taught her a lot better. She tried to learn it once, and the cold feeling in her body seemed to fade a little. Lily felt happy, and her disgust towards Rong Li couldn't help but fade a little. What's the point of practicing so much? Lily was busy practicing on the side, but Rong Li kept talking to her, making Lily upset and impatient at the same time. She waved her hand and said, "Why do you care so much? The purpose of cultivation is to conquer demons and eliminate demons." She thought about it for a moment, but this seemed to be too false, and then added, it is also to survive. Only those who can practice can. If it is high, there will be no accidents when encountering monsters and ghosts in the future. What's more important is that if she meets Wrong Li this time, if she is stronger than Wrong Li, she will never let Wrong Li manipulate him. In order to survive. Is living so good? Wrong Li seemed to want to talk for some reason. When he said this, a scarlet color flashed in his eyes, which looked particularly penetrating. Lily rolled her eyes. Don't really want to pay attention to him. She always suffered from Chuyunibu in her teenage years, not to mention that now that she was practicing the spell, her body discomfort seemed to be getting lighter and lighter. At this moment, she had no time to talk to Wrong Li, but Wrong Li did not speak. She seemed a little angry, her lips moved, and her lips seemed to be even redder as if they were wiped with blood. She still stubbornly asked for her answer. Lily was so annoyed by him that she had no choice but to say. Of course it's good to be alive. If I disappear, won't everything be over? Of course I have to practice Taoism and the weak will eat the strong. If someone is better than me, won't I have to be at the mercy of others? Wrong Li raised his eyebrows when he heard this. The fist came out and hit the ground with a boom. The ground immediately stretched out in all directions like split spider threads. Amidst the soft click sound, the ground seemed to sway a few times. After Wrong Li finished typing in an understatement, he turned to Lily and smiled. Is that so? Lily shivered. Nodding numbly, look, you are strong and I am weak, I have to listen to you. The one with big fists is the last word. No matter how eloquent she is, her strength is not as good as others, and it is useless to say anything with her mouth. Li laughed softly, then you talk to me. Teach me what it means to be happy and what it means to be angry. By the way, I also need to feel tired and afraid. He said a lot, and a small cross flower popped up on Lily's forehead. Who doesn't know this feeling? The 7 emotions and 6 desires are things that people are born with. This feeling can only be understood but cannot be expressed in words. How can I make sense with Wrong Li? But now seeing Wrong Li's attitude of punching her to death if she disagreed, Lily didn't dare to say more. After asking this question angrily, Wrong Li grinned at her. I don't know, he can laugh and talk, but that doesn't mean he has a complete understanding of emotional matters. He understands the meaning of every word and can communicate with others, but what is actually expressed in the words he didn't understand what the emotion was. Are you human? These words blurted out without thinking. After saying this, Lily felt that something was wrong. She was afraid that Wrong Li thought that he had insulted him. When he was about to apologize, he saw Wrong Li shook his head honestly. I'm not. She had originally asked the question unintentionally, but when she heard him say that she was no longer a human being, Lily's whole body stood up with chills. She felt that Wrong Li was a little weird. He had no demonic aura about him, but he also had no popularity. Unexpectedly he accidentally asked something, but he said it honestly. Lily's eyes widened a little, her lips were open and she was speechless. After a while, she heard her dry voice ask. Then, what are you? In your words, I should be a kind of zombie. Ha ha, I don't know if it was because she was extremely frightened, but Lily was calmer than she expected. She laughed dryly twice at first, but then she screamed in her heart. There are 18 types of ordinary zombies, and zombies, the levels are divided into 8 levels at this time, but no one has heard that zombies can talk, and there is no trace of yin when walking. The key is that he is not afraid of the sun, which may have exceeded the 8 levels. One can imagine how powerful he is. If he falls into the hands of such a person, no wonder there is no possibility of escape at all. Funny, Wrong Li asked, imitating Lily's laughter and laughing. Lily was speechless. Her cheeks were so stiff that she couldn't twitch at all. She just stared at Wrong Li and said nothing after half a sentence. She couldn't tell. No wonder she felt that Wrong Li was in danger. Now that she was in the hands of such a person, Lily didn't know if she could escape. Fortunately, Wrongly didn't mean to kill her. He just didn't understand human relationships. Maybe in the human world, he had learned what he shouldn't do. Sometimes he even did some etiquette better than real people, but she didn't understand what it meant. Lily was very afraid of him at the beginning, and then sometimes she was speechless towards him. Gradually, maybe because Wrongly didn't want to kill her, she began to be less afraid of the legend in front of her. A zombie is almost a human being, except that he has no emotions. The corpse poison planted in Lily's body by Wrongly had long since disappeared after she practiced the Taoist techniques Wrongly taught her. The two of them spent more than 3 years traveling all over the country, and Wrongly never asked Lily again. What is the topic of joy and anger? Lily is becoming less and less afraid of him. When they met and almost traveled the entire country, it was already another year after the two of them returned to mission. Lily has grown a lot in the past 5 years. After seeing it, I also tried to slay demons. With Wrongly by her side, she almost never encountered any danger. The smile on Wrongly's face became more and more, and the feeling of danger in him became lower and lower. Sometimes Lily couldn't even feel the danger coming from him. With the murderous intent, he seemed to have truly transformed into a human being. I'm going back to mission. I want to go back to mission and do my things. Lily has not forgotten her mission in 5 years, and Wrongly has not killed her in these 5 years. On the contrary, he taught her a lot. Wrongly had lived for who knows how many years, and he knew everything. He was like Lily's master. Lily taught him real joys, anger, sorrow, and joy, and he also taught Lily a lot of things. During these 5 years, when the two were walking outside, others thought they were a couple at first. Later, Wrongly's appearance remained unchanged, while Lily's appearance changed slightly. People began to think that the two of them were siblings. Wrongly heard that Lily was going back. If so, he knew what Lily meant. He smiled and shook his head. I'm with you. Are you sure you don't want me to transform you? The two have been together for 5 years. Wrongly has never sucked blood. At this level, he no longer needs to control the instincts in his body like low-level zombies. He has begun to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, and he no longer needs to suck blood like he did thousands of years ago. But whenever he saw Lily, there was always an urge in his body to transform her. Become like yourself and stay with you for thousands of years. She taught herself many things. She taught him what simple joy is, what worries are, and even taught him that the thought of being lonely, bored, and wanting to kill was not his only feeling in his long life. He also learned to be happy, and like she said, enjoy life. God gave him endless lifetime, and he happened to have spiritual wisdom. Lily taught him, and he knew that he had a lot. Wrongly couldn't bear to leave her and wanted to be with her forever. But she was just an ordinary mortal. She would always be born, old, sick and died. Wrongly couldn't help but want to bite her several times, but for some reason, he, who had always followed his own will, began to have scruples. Zombies actually learn the indecisiveness of humans. Sometimes Wrongly himself couldn't help laughing, which shows how well Lily taught him. Lily naturally rejected Wrongly's proposal, and Wrongly insisted on following her to mission. Tao Rangxing, who originally thought his daughter had died long ago, was naturally very excited when he saw his daughter coming back. He handed mission into his daughter's hands, thinking that Wrongly was the husband her daughter had brought back from a trip, and Lily had no intention of explaining it. When Tao Rangxing died at the age of 70, the most regrettable thing was that her daughter had not had a son or a half in her life. The Tao family began to flourish under Lily's leadership. She once had the experience of being the head of the Ime section. She did not find it difficult to lead the Tao family. Lily adopted several children with good character. When she was in her 70s, Wrongly still looked like he was 17 or 18 years old. He had made many offers to transform Lily to accompany him, but Lily refused. By the time 100 years passed, Mo Shaokai and others had already turned into dust. Lily was already over 200 years old. She had already handed over the Tao family to the adopted children. The Tao family established a sect and became the largest family in Mission. One of the sects. In the secret room, the handsome Rong Li stared at Lily with gloomy eyes. Why did you teach me to enjoy such a long life, but you refused to accompany me into this long life? Lily's life was about to come to an end. Both she and Rong Li had calculated that she was about to die. You lied to me. Rong Li, who had always smiled, had stopped showing a gloomy expression for many years, and now he was no longer pretending, I'm going to be angry. He had learned from Lily all his life. He couldn't learn the feeling of anger. All he learned was satisfaction and happiness, but now he learned it, and he truly understood what it meant to be unhappy and angry. Lily shook her head. After being together for so many years, even the grass and trees would have some waves. When she saw Rong Li's gloomy face, she seemed to be as handsome as when she saw him in that shabby little inn. Wu Tao, her life was gradually fading away. She saw that Rong Li's two fangs had been exposed. Maybe he was going to bite her. Rong Li was very angry at this moment. Lily knew it, so she reached out to touch his face. There was no warmth on his face. The two of them had been called husband and wife over the years, but in fact, because Rong Li was a zombie, although he had practiced, he had never been close to her. At the end of her life, Lily no longer wanted to care about those things. She touched Rong Li. He seemed a little at a loss, like a child, and his sharp teeth were retracted. In his eyes, he was already very old, but he as if she was not surprised at all. Lily suddenly laughed, gently pulled his hand and leaned her face into his palm. She felt her cheeks and palms quickly freezing, and she smiled. Rong Li, look at it, is it warm? If I become like you, you won't even feel this warmth anymore. Although it was only a small amount of warmth, she still gave it. In addition to fulfilling Tao Bei's wish during this mission, what made Lily feel most regretful and happy was that she got to know a person like Rong Li. Her voice became softer and softer, and her eyes were covered with a layer of light green. Shuangjing, Rong Li seemed to understand what she meant, and suddenly laughed blankly. He reached out and touched his face, which he had never touched before, and felt that her originally warm skin quickly cooled down due to his movements. Rong Li couldn't help but smile deeper at the corner of his mouth. He tentatively and clumsily imitated the intimate behavior of human beings that he had seen before, and pressed his lips to the lips that had no warmth. The strangeness made him finally feel her feelings welling up in his heart. He had always thought that he was heartless, but at this moment he could clearly feel that his heart, which had stopped beating long ago, began to beat loudly. Cold, a drop of light green tears slipped from his eyes. What he learned from Lily was not only joy, but there may be more. It was the kind of love that he had heard of before, but never learned from Lily. Something called emotion that I have never experienced before. When Lily died, he, who could only be called the only zombie king in the world, felt the taste of love, hatred, and hatred. The last barrier that had been stuck in his body finally broke through. Rong Li raised his head and screamed. His body began to expel a large amount of impurities, and the lilies held tightly in his arms began to melt as impurities. In the end, what Rong Li held was nothing. With Rong Li's protection, the Tao family sect prospered for thousands of years. Until 1,000 years later, Rong Li disappeared. The descendants of the Tao family no longer know where this ancestor who protected the sect finally disappeared. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 66. Living longer and longer each time, Lily couldn't help but be silent for a while when she entered the space this time. She thought of Rong Li, and thought of a lot, but in the end she just sighed. Congratulations, the mission is completed. A mysterious man's voice rang out in the space. As his voice appeared, the starry sky fluctuated, and his figure also appeared. Lily nodded to him and heard the handsome man asked, "What are you adding this time?" As soon as she heard that the attribute values were going to be increased, Lily became a little more interested and said without thinking, "I want to add it to intelligence." In fact, her basic statistics were average, not too high, but although appearance was important, her lack of IQ was a flaw. Lily endured the melancholy in her heart, still pursed her lips, and had done many tasks. Although she is not smart, since she has chosen this path of living, she will definitely continue to walk on it forever. As soon as these words fell, Lily's information appeared again in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 55, out of 100. Appearance, 60, out of 100. Physical strength, 58, 100 full points. Force, 11, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching. Specialties, none. Charisma, 22, out of 100. Collection, The Love of the Corpse King. This time, Lily discovered that in addition to a little more attribute value growth in the intelligence and charm columns, she actually had an extra collection. Her heart froze, and she subconsciously asked, "This? The Love of the Corpse King?" the extremely handsome man asked with the left corner of his mouth slightly raised. Lily nodded. His eyes were calm and he explained, "You can understand that this is a love that no one else has been able to achieve before." Achievement. You have gained the love of the Corpse King. In future missions, if you encounter existences such as zombies again, it will protect you so that these things will not hurt you again and can hear you. You command. Although it is not possible to encounter zombies in every mission in the future, what she got this time was too valuable, especially since Lily had been in the world of gods and ghosts for so many years, and it was not like she had never dealt with zombies. The level of the Corpse King is far higher than that of other zombies. If he could really command so many zombies, wouldn't it be easier for him to enter similar missions in the future? It's just that she didn't expect that Wrongly would give her such a big gift after the task was completed. Lily's heart, which had been suppressing calmness, suddenly moved. A slight pain began to spread from his heart to his limbs. Things that she had deliberately ignored in the past now came to her mind. You have to remember that you are just a passerby, and your mission is to complete the mission. The extremely handsome man Leng Huayu spoke to Lily. He was so handsome and cold that he seemed not to be a real person, and he was as alien to the world as a jade sculpture. Pyrotechnics, at this moment, actually took the initiative to say a few more words to himself. Lily had also done several tasks in his hands, but this time she couldn't bear it any longer. He nodded and asked softly, "I am a passerby on a mission, what if I don't want to be a guest again?" She is also a human being, and she also has emotions and desires. Although her heart becomes a little harder every time she does a mission, she still feels distressed, or will be melancholy. The handsome man raised his lips with a half smile, but with a cold look in his eyes, he said calmly, "If you don't want to be a guest anymore, then you have integrated into the mission. In addition to fulfilling other people's wishes, the mission also tests you. It depends on whether you can stick to your heart. If you can't, actually living for 30 to 50 years or more and disappearing when you die may be a good deal for some people." He never spoke once. After saying such long words, Lily was stunned for a moment and understood what he meant. If you want to live forever or survive forever, you actually have to endure more. Somehow, Lily remembered that Wrongly had asked herself whether living longer would be better. Wrongly always thought that she didn't want to live longer, so she refused his proposal to bite her every time, but he in fact, I don't know. She has been rejecting him just because she wants to live longer. She will exist longer than Wrong Li. I don't know if one day she will have the kind of desire like Wrong Li. The question arose whether living longer would be better, but Lily didn't want to regret it at the moment. She didn't even want to think about whether there would be such a person to ask her questions in the future, but she still wanted to survive so far, even if she survived. The conditions are so difficult. I want to survive, she pursed her lips, her eyes showing a tenacity that even many people who were smarter and more beautiful than her couldn't match. She was like an inconspicuous ant, seemingly ordinary and insignificant. She was drowned in a swarm of ants, but she was still extremely strong, and even the tasks she performed surprised the handsome man. Very good. A mysterious smile appeared in the eyes of the handsome man, and the smile on his face became deeper. He was already extremely beautiful, but now he smiled and melted the cold lines on his face, instantly, just like the warmth of spring. People can't help but feel intoxicated. Lily was also stunned for a moment. Although she was also fascinated by it, she finally came to her senses. You have to know that the mission is just a fleeting thing. Lily, you have done a very good job. You will not regret it. One day you will be happy with your decision. After saying this mysterious and handsome man became very excited. With a wave of his sleeves, he only asked before disappearing, "Do you want to continue the mission?" Yes. Now that she has decided, Lily doesn't want to suffer any longer. Although there were many regrets and difficulties in the last mission, life still has to move forward, and people always look forward. The world was spinning, and she knew that the man had sent her to the plot. This time she was alone where she came. When Lily resisted the dizziness and opened her eyes, she only saw the exquisite boudoir around her, where she was lying on the bed. Entering the bed, the surrounding environment was antique. She knew that she had entered ancient times without having to accept the plot. A large number of plots came to her in her mind, and Lily accepted them quietly. It wasn't until she had finished receiving most of the information for more than 2 hours that she couldn't help but rub her head, which was extremely swollen and painful. The approximate plot this time is caused by the emperor ordering Nguo Gong to attack the southern Tang dynasty in the Daong dynasty. Her original surname is Liu and her maiden name is Lily. She just married Nguo Gong's second son less than half a year ago. Newlywed lady. Talking about the Angguo Duke's mansion, it was originally a mess. The plot was mostly based on a lot of meat, the affair between the father-in-law and his daughter-in-law in the inner house, the chaos between the brothers and their sisters-in-law, and the relationship between the children, brothers, and sisters, the whole story. Nguo Gong's mansion is like a pot of porridge. Liu Beihe was originally Nguo Gong's first daughter-in-law. In the plot, she also had an affair with this father-in-law. Her husband and Qing Yuan also knew about it, but Qing Yuan didn't care at all. Everyone knew each other, but tacitly understood it, as if a delicate balance had been reached. Nguo Gong's mansion was a huge Jiangguo demon cellar, until in the plot, Nguo Gong broke through the southern Tang dynasty and captured it. The story unfolds after the little princess of the southern Tang dynasty married her to his third son Qing Zhen. The little princess of the southern Tang dynasty was named Lan Minjiao. The southern Tang dynasty at this time was not the southern Tang dynasty in history that Lily knew, but was equivalent to an existence similar to the Miao tribe, except that it was extremely powerful. The southern Tang dynasty was located on the edge of the country and the environment was harsh. The people of the southern Tang dynasty were forced to do nothing and often robbed the people and food of the Daong dynasty. Finally, the emperor of the Daong dynasty could not bear it anymore and sent Dukan to exterminate the southern Tang dynasty before giving up. Lan Yu was extremely beautiful, even more beautiful than concubine Qin, who was known as the most beautiful woman in the world. Therefore, after entering the Yan family, he seemed to have brought a source of disaster to the Yan family. The whole group of people, big and small, was almost red-eyed, and everyone was related to Lan Yu. The brothers of the Yan family, including the old and shameless Nguo Gong, all fell in love with this tender piece of meat. They tried their best to hang out with Lan Yu, and they were all jealous of her, but they didn't know that Lan Yu was willing to marry into the An family. Came for revenge. Her parents and brothers were killed by An Kuagong. She served these enemies just to make Angia and the people related to Angia kill each other. She wanted them to die without a place to bury, so she injected poison into her body. Gu, every man who has had sex with her will attract the poison to them, and then they will be close to others and infect each other. This is like forming a highly contagious virus. In the end, the old and young men will settle down. Everyone went crazy for her and seemed to be inhuman. When he fell deeply in love with her, everyone died from the poison. Lan Yu avenged his family and disappeared in Daong. Lily in the plot died miserably in the end, and her husband also ignored her when she was alive. In the end, An Kuagong, who could give her some comfort, also fell in love with Lan Yu. The original owner seemed to have been alone in the empty house for several years. In the end his appearance was completely destroyed and he died from the poison. She was originally just a girl in a boudoir, but after marrying a wolf like the An family, she fell down. Not only did she end up being infamous throughout the ages, but she also had to keep the appearance that was most important to a woman in the end. More importantly, she harmed her family members and suffered severe injuries when she died. After all the torture, Li Bei was very resentful when she finally died. She wanted all the people who had wronged her to die, she wanted to destroy her family, she wanted to save her family, and more importantly, she wanted to make Lan Yu feel heartbroken and also want to taste the taste of what she wants. Lily already knew the general mission. It was very easy for Lily to let the people in the An family who were sorry for her die. After all, the original owner hated her husband An Qingyuan the most, but she gave An Qingyuan special treatment. Let him not die so happily first, and then it will be An Kuagong and a few shameless brothers of An Qingyuan. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 67. It's easy to save your natal family. If you are no longer poisoned by Lan Yu, don't pass it on to the Li family. This is not impossible. But the last point is that the original owner does not want Lan Yu to die, but will make her heartbroken. Let her have a taste of what her loved one wants, but it makes Lily feel a little embarrassed. The plot didn't say that Lan Yu had anyone she liked or cared about. The family members she cared about had either been beheaded by An Kuagong on the battlefield, or were rewarded to those like wolves like her mother and sisters. The tiger-like personal guard of the An family was humiliated to death. Lan Yu doesn't seem to have anyone she loves, but there are many people who love her. All the men in the An family are crazy about her and wish they could hold her in their arms all the time, but there is no one she loves. This woman crawled out of hell to avenge the An family. She had to drag the entire An family into hell to avenge her and vent her hatred. The only purpose of her life was to make the An family suffer a bad death. If you don't keep chickens and dogs, how could you marry into the An family? She doesn't love anyone, not even herself. It can be seen from the fact that she can ruthlessly bewitch herself. This is the most difficult thing to do. But fortunately, it's still early now, so count the days. Duke Nguo had already won the battle and was escorting Lan Yu back to Beijing. Lan Yu is very smart. She never greeted Mr. Nguo face to face along the way. What she wanted was to have the effect of stunning everyone when she appeared on the stage. Because Nguo Gong escorted him all the way, she almost let this man fall under her nose. It is natural to imagine the fear that Duke Nguo had when a stunning beauty escaped from his grasp. When Lan Yu appeared on the wedding day, her grace almost dazzled everyone. What's more, as the saying goes, the most beautiful things are the things you can't get. Because of this, Angwo was not greedy for power or money, but he was only greedy for sex and lust. He planned to have dozens of concubines at home, but before Lan Yu appeared, he would get tired of the women he took in within 3 or 2 months at most, but he had always regarded his first 2 daughters-in-law as jewels. Every time she came back from an expedition, she would definitely be tortured. In the past, Li Beihe was because An Qingyuan couldn't stand her relationship. In addition, her first relationship with An Qiuagong was also forced by An Qiuagong. Later, she went to An Qingyuan. She cried, but An Qingyuan not only ignored her, but coldly advised her to accept her fate. That's why Li Beihe completely gave up on that idea, and later he simply broke up and got involved with An Qiuagong. If it hadn't been for Lan Yu's appearance later, An Qiuagong's palace would have been rotten to the core, but one of them wanted revenge. The blue metaphor. Therefore, not only the original owner's family was ruined, but he also died in misery. At this moment, the plot has just reached the moment when Duke Nguo sends Lan Yu to Beijing. Counting the time until the brother and son turned against each other, it would still take nearly half a year. And Qiuagong would not return to Beijing for 2 months. As soon as he came back, he gave Lily a shameful treatment and dragged her to let him steal in front of An Qiuagong. Seeing Feng Lu having such a happy time, Li Beihe felt ashamed and helpless, but it was a pity that she was unable to resist at all, plus she was resentful and gave up on herself. He simply didn't struggle anymore, but he felt resentful in his heart. It's urgent. The most important thing is that Lily should practice her 9-yang manual. It takes 2 months to become a master. Her martial arts talent is not good, and her attribute value in the martial arts column is particularly low. This thing normally I don't think it is of much use. After all, Lily has lived several lives and the most important thing she lacks is patience. But at this critical moment, she discovered that force value is also very important. And Qiuagong himself has been on the battlefield for many years. If it were just some ordinary little tricks, he might not be able to escape his hands. It is absolutely impossible for Lily to do something with such a person just for the sake of a mission, especially in front of other men. She was anxious. After thinking about it, he decided that he should put the 9-yang manual aside first, and then practice the Taoist techniques. At least he would not learn some of the little skills of drawing talismans, and draw a few more talismans, so that Duke Nguo would not want to focus on herself. Once Lan Yu appears and she attracts these men like flies, she should be safe. Thinking of this, Lily didn't dare to delay for a moment, and she didn't dare to take a nap. She got up directly and started running the Tao Te Ching of Tiandi section. This Tao Te Ching is the authentic Taoist internal art that Rong Li taught her. If the effect of killing demons and exterminating demons is extremely obvious, it would be a dream to learn it in 2 or 3 months. Lily just hopes. I can quickly practice the Tao Te Ching. I don't need to have any skills at that time, as long as I can draw some talismans that look similar. Because of this, the second daughter-in-law of Wang, the eldest daughter of Duke Angwo's palace, has recently been seen by everyone as if she has gone crazy. She spends all day either buying talisman paper or asking for cinnabar, and the maids are so scared that they run away. From a distance, Lily didn't bother to explain to these people at the moment. She had no time. She was racing against time at the moment. She knew that others might misunderstand her, but how could she care about it at the moment? Many. What's more, when Lan Yu arrived, Angwo's mansion was in chaos. From the maids and servants to Angwo and his son sleeping in Lan Yu's room, it was in chaos. When she was gone, who could remember what she had done? So the most important thing is to save your life. And Qingyuan was out having fun all day and night. He didn't think much of Li Beihe, an ordinary-looking daughter-in-law. He had always been lustful, and inherited the temperament of An Qiuagong. He almost lived in the flower streets and willow alleys, and rarely returned home. Come on, Plus he had been married to Lily for more than a year, and he was already tired of it, so he was almost away from home every day. This made Lily breathe a sigh of relief, and naturally he couldn't care about An Ching Yuen, a romantic who would die sooner or later. Planted. Second, Madam has invited me. I would like you to come over. When the girl came in to reply, she was so frightened that she turned blue when she saw the large and small charms hanging in the room. If it hadn't been for the order from above, she almost never set foot in this courtyard, but Lily didn't have the time to pay attention to her, not even to nod. The girl had the courage to say one more sentence, but when Lily never replied, she breathed a sigh of relief and went out. Wang is the official wife of An Kuagong and the biological mother of An Ching Yuen and several other sons. In such a chaotic mansion, she is one of the rare people who can always see the true face of her son's husband, but she has always remained calm. She was very suspicious of Lan Yu from the beginning, but unfortunately neither her husband nor her son listened to her, and because her son did not have an affair with her, and An Kuagong later did not touch her at all, so in the end she could say that the only survivor escaped into the empty door. Seeing that the girl did not call Lily, Ms. Wang was so angry that she had Lily's yard locked and would not let her go out. Lily asked for it, and time quickly flew by when An Kuagong returned to Beijing. Just like in the plot, Lan Yu was given to An Ching Ching, the third son of the An family. On their wedding night, An Kuagong came to Lily's house as promised. In the yard, it's just that the yard has been locked up by the Wang family. Although An Kuagong thought that Liu's daughter-in-law was petite and cute, he didn't have to do it after all, so he went to another house instead and made room for Lily. Quite a bit of time to come. After An Kuagong left, he met Lan Yu again the next day, who was like a fairy that day. How could he think of Lily later? He resorted to various means to seize Lan Yu. In less than half a year, An Ching Yuen, several other brothers and even his cousins took possession of Lan Yu. Lan Yu herself had planted the poison, and as long as she had a good relationship with a man, it was as if he had lost his soul and could no longer think of other women. For a while, Angwo Gongfu was filled with complaints and uproar. Even the always calm Wang family did not sit still and took action to punish Lan Yu. However, because of her instigation, Wang was reprimanded by Dukan and alienated by his son. Lily has been practicing the Nine Yang Manual desperately for more than half a year, and she doesn't know if practice makes perfect. She has practiced the Nine Yang Manual 3 times in total. This time, she got twice the result with half the effort. She has become familiar with it a lot. Although she can't say that she has achieved great success in half a year, she can still do it. When it comes to getting down to business and embarking on the road, she is immersed in practicing, but others are not necessarily willing to let her go. When the courtyard door, which had been closed for half a year, creaked open, Lily heard someone's disgusted voice outside. What are you doing here? This place is dirty and broken. What's more, Ms. Lu seemed to be possessed by a demon at the beginning. You are such a fairy, how could I bear to let your feet step on such ground? The voice clearly belonged to Lily's husband An Ching Yuen. When Lily heard the word Yuer and An King Yuen's flattering and obedient tone, she didn't know that it was Lan Yu who was here. Speaking of An Ching Yuen, one has to say that he is a bitch. He is the second son of Dukan Guo. He was pampered since childhood. Who wouldn't say hello when they see him? His nostrils have always been in the sky, but when he saw Lan Yu, he just lost his way and coaxed him in a coquettish manner. He didn't have the same expression as he usually did in front of other women. He could only say that one thing is good for another, and it is indeed not easy. What you get is what you want, and what you get is treated as if it were discarded. Sister-in-law has been imprisoned for half a year. I told the general to ask him to spare my sister-in-law for once. Lan Yu's voice was just like what we heard in Lily's plot, crisp and delicate, like an aureole emerging from the valley. The man who settled down what they loved most was her suppressed crying and tender screams of pain when she was in bed. Lily sneered in her heart and came out of the house impatiently. Lan Yu came here to take revenge on the people of the Yin family. She would not let go of anyone in the Yin family. At this time, she should not only take revenge on the people of the Yin family. She has seduced the men, and even the husbands of Wang's two married daughters should be her subordinates. What she wants to do is to wipe out the Yin family. It seems that her daughter-in-law of the Yin family has not appeared for a long time, so that she felt a little uneasy. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 68. Such a ruthless woman who is willing to sacrifice her own body and risk everything. Lily doesn't believe that she is as pure and kind as she shows. Come and see her and spare her for once. Lily raised her lips and opened the door. I wonder if it was because she had not seen the sun for many years. Her skin was so white that it was already transparent. She had not seen him for more than half a year. And Qingyuan suddenly found that he was a wife who had never been in his eyes. Suddenly there seemed to be a very unexpected change. Ms. Lu, this is King King's wife. And King Yuan's expression was very unnatural when he introduced Lan Yu. His hand was still around Lan Yu's waist. Lily was also aware of the filthiness of the Yin family and couldn't help but smile. Laughing, without making a sound, he looked towards Lan Yu, who was unlikely to complete his task. Miss Lan, nice to meet you, she called Miss Lan instead of her three younger siblings. Lan Yu's eyes lit up at first, and then his smile curved into a crescent moon, with the kind of smile that left an Qingyuan haunted. Sister-in-law, it's really a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I didn't expect that my sister-in-law is such a wonderful person. It's such a pity that I haven't seen her before. Lan Yu's own eyes have blue outer circles, which must be a sign of a disease. The symptoms of poisoning, she herself has no martial arts, can be seen from the sluggishness of her walking steps. Moreover, because she has been taking the poison that nourishes poison all year round, her body is smooth and tender, but the inside is severely damaged and her complexion is not good. She is beautiful, her face is a little pale, but precisely because of this, her unparalleled youthfulness is even more evident. Lily has been practicing Taoism for half a year now, and at the same time, the Nine Yang manual has not fallen behind. Because she had a good status in this life and had people waiting on her, she didn't have to worry about eating or drinking. She spent almost all her time practicing martial arts when she slept. After making some progress, she glanced at An Qingyuan. Although the two were a little far apart, because the reason for practicing martial arts is that he has good eyesight. At a glance, he saw that An Qingyuan's eyes were emitting a bit of blue light. Although it was not as serious as Lan Yu's, it was enough. Seeing this scene, Lily's eyes curled up. This kind of poison is very powerful, and the person who is poisoned cannot be comforted by the mother voodoo. Otherwise, death is inevitable. After being infected, the mother goo will fall in love with her to the bone and will never be able to leave her again. Lily's mission was to kill An Qingyuan, but now she saw that An Qingyuan had done something wrong, and she was happy to watch the joke. What are you talking about, Miss Lan? The place in the house is shabby. I haven't entertained guests yet, so I'm afraid I won't be able to greet you too. Lily saw Lan Yu. Seeing her delicate and frail appearance, I remembered that she was only 14 years old at the moment. It was the time when she needed someone's care. Unfortunately, her family was ruined. No wonder she wanted to take revenge. But all this had nothing to do with her. The main thing in her life was just to do the task. At this moment, he had no intention of greeting Lan Yu anymore, and was going to see the guests off behind closed doors. Lan Yu instinctively felt that Lily was dangerous. She wants the Yin family to apologize for Southern Tang, she wants the men of the Yin family to die cleanly, and she wants the women of the Yin family to experience how their mothers and sisters were humiliated to death. So far, everything is going very well. The men of the An family stole and prostituted women, and were filthy behind the scenes, but this was not enough. Wang's daughter was not so slutty that she would eventually be cast aside by the world. She wanted more. This second sister-in-law, Ms. Liu, whom she has never met before, has not been seen for several months after marrying into the An family. It is not like An Qingyuan said that she has an affair with his father. On the contrary, for some reason, Lan Yu is I feel that this second sister-in-law is very dangerous and may become the person who blocks my mission. No one can stop what she wants to do. Qingyuan, please go out and wait for me for a while. I really hit it off with my second sister-in-law. I really want to talk to her. Lan Yu stared at Lily, and raised the corners of his mouth at An Qingyuan with a wave of eyes. In an instant, An Qingyuan looked as if he was losing his mind. He couldn't help but smile, but his eyes flashed coldly, revealing deep-seated hatred. My good man, what is there to see here? Go back to the house quickly. Wouldn't it be better for us to have a good time? I don't know whether it was because of the temptation of the poison or because Lan Yu's body was better than thousands. She used after taking the secret medicine, the attractiveness of the body to men can be doubled. The men of the An family are already lustful, and naturally they all want to die on her body. How can An Qingyuan be willing to give up Lan Yu to her at this moment? Lily, she wished she could fall to the ground with her and have sex on the spot. Lan Yu's eyes showed something like a smile but not a smile. She had such an expression. How could An Qingyuan dare to force her? He was deeply afraid that she would no longer want to interact with him, so he hurriedly said, then hurry up and I will do it. I'll wait for you outside. Some fine grass has grown in the yard because no girl dared to stay for more than half a year. An Qingyuan grew up in the Duke's mansion and is the legitimate son of Dukan. Wang was in charge of the middle school, so he would never treat his precious son wrongly. He was like soaking in honey when he was a child. He had never seen such a messy scene. Naturally, he couldn't stay in this place. What's more, although he liked Lan Yu, he also wanted to stay with her, but if there was a Lily in front of him, he didn't want to see it. Although he was entangled with Lan Yu secretly and knew that his wife was having an affair with his father, no matter how dirty he was secretly, he kissed Lan Yu in front of Lily. Somehow, Lily now as if his appearance had changed, and Qingyuan really couldn't do anything anymore. He couldn't stay in the room. He didn't want to see Lily's face, so he could only wait outside. Lily frowned. She didn't expect that Lan Yu was still a bit difficult to deal with. She didn't say anything. Watching An Qingyuan coax and kiss Lan Yu up and down his hands, Lan Yu smiled slightly, then twisted up her skirt and faced Lily. Come over. The closer she got, the more clearly she could see that her eyebrows were like distant mountains, her eyes were like stars, her lips were not dotted with crimson, and her skin was as fair and delicate as a fine organ, looking smooth and delicate. Second sister-in-law, I haven't had the chance to meet you. I'm here to give you a gift. After Lan Yu said this, Lily nodded slightly. Since you said that, I won't meet you anymore. I'm here. You have also seen the situation, everything is dilapidated and shabby, and there is nothing to greet you. It doesn't matter, I can just sit here casually. Lan Yu smiled and rolled his eyes, his face was very sweet. At this moment, how could anyone imagine that this sweet person in front of him would eventually become that murderous ghost? Do you want to sit down again? Lily was a little impatient to deal with her. At the moment, all her time was spent on practicing martial arts and Taoism. What's more, the room was full of talismans, and she didn't want Lan Yu to go in. Lan Yu raised his eyebrows and asked in a low voice, is it possible that my sister-in-law doesn't welcome me? No, I'm afraid. An Qingyuan is impatient to wait. Lily sighed, and just as she was about to speak directly, Lan Yu bypassed her and went directly into the house. Lily didn't expect that in this plot, he always pretended to be gentle, kind. A girl who is weak but a little naive can also be so strong, and she immediately thought that she came to Anne's house just for revenge. Naturally, her true temperament cannot be what she showed. At this moment, she decided to entering the house. It is not surprising to behave like this. There were a lot of talismans drawn on her house, and there was nothing shameful about them. It was just that she didn't want to deal with Lan Yu. But since Lan Yu wanted to see them, everyone had already gone in, so she had no intention of hiding them. Second sister-in-law, it's really interesting here. I've drawn so many things. Is it useful? Lan Yu looked thoughtful when she saw the various talismans on the table that she couldn't understand. Glanced at Lily, she didn't look like others who were afraid when seeing these things, but instead looked a little naive and eager. I once heard my father say that the Taoism in the Central Plains is very magical, and it can. Is it true that seeing a dead person fixes a demon's soul? She never mentioned her father in the plot. She didn't expect that she would say it now. Lily was a little unsure of what she meant, but she said it is not difficult to do those things after practicing the technique, so he nodded. Some Taoist techniques are indeed possible. As soon as Lily finished speaking, Lan Yu's eyes lit up. Is it true? Second sister-in-law, is this true? Could it be that I can really see my parents again? She originally didn't have any wishes, but now Lily suddenly thought of a way to complete the task. Although she didn't know if she would be able to achieve what the original owner wanted by using this threat in the future, she still nodded. I can try it in the future, but it's not possible now. Even if it was just like this, Lan Yu already seemed very happy. She was originally just a girl of 13 or 14. She suffered a family tragedy, and she planted such a poison in her body. Although she tortured others, in fact, in the end, she was the one who tortured herself first. She tilted her head and smiled at Lily. You are different from what I imagined. Second sister-in-law, I have been here for a while. And Qingyuan is still waiting outside. I will leave first. I will come back again. Yes, she didn't know whether she called in Qingyuan's full name unconsciously or deliberately. It was not as close as when she called him just now. Lily just pretended not to hear it and nodded with a smile, but she felt a little uncomfortable when she thought about it. Great patience. If nothing happens, you don't have to come here often. She had to spend most of her time practicing martial arts. She really didn't have time to hang around with people, so Lan Yu smiled innocently. Second sister-in-law also comes from a family of officials. I wonder how you learned these Taoist skills, she asked, but Lily had no intention of explaining, and Lan Yu didn't ask further questions, so he stood up and left. Lily locked the door as soon as she left. After practicing kung fu for a while, someone knocked on the door outside in the evening. Duke and Guo coughed twice majestically outside. Ahi, open the door and let me in. I haven't seen you for a long time. I'll take the opportunity to see you tonight. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support will. That's my biggest motivation. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 69. Ever since he got a treasure like Lan Yu, whether in the plot or this time, Dukan wanted to die on her. How could he still see other women when Lan Yu was around? Thinking of bye-bye, Lan Yu came one day and Dukan Guo came in the evening. Lily couldn't help but sneered. Her IQ is not very high, but now it is slowly increasing. More importantly, she has lived for so many lives and done so many missions. Even a fool can feel how much she has been tricked. Something was wrong, not to mention that she knew Lan Yu's sinister and vicious personality. She must have come to test her during the day and mentioned her father. At that time, Lily only thought that she was in a cheerful mood or was talking about her family unconsciously before she remembered that I thought it was an expression of true feelings, but now I realized that I was stupid. For Lan Yu, a person who wants revenge, she has no heart. She probably mentioned her father on purpose to test herself, and because she thought she could summon his father's spirit, she took it as a joke on her. After all, in Lanyu it seemed to you that Liu Beihe was from a wealthy family, so it was impossible for her to learn the ninth-rate Taoist arts, and she could not learn this thing at all. She thought she was making fun of her, so she sent An Kuagong over. On the one hand, she wanted to use the gu the poison was passed on to herself, and on the one hand, she probably wanted to take revenge for causing her to bring up her father during the day. In Lan Yu's mind, people from the An family were not qualified to mention her Lan family, and they were not qualified to mention Nantang at all. She mentioned it herself, and because of Lily, she got angry. It turns out that she has not given up on wanting to harm herself, Lily thought. Laughed softly. Outside, Dukan Guo knocked on the door very hurriedly, and gradually he seemed to be impatient. He snorted coldly, "Come out, otherwise don't blame me for being rude." After speaking, Dukan Guo waved his hand again, "Give it to me." Bang the door. The first time he forced Lily Lu, he also used violent methods, which left a deep shadow on the original owner. Although Lily Lu fell in the end, it did not mean that she was willing from the beginning. If it were Lily now, she would naturally be even less willing to do so. Fortunately, she had prepared the talismans and other items a long time ago. At this moment, there seemed to be 3 people outside. She casually grabbed 3 holding talismans in her hand. When she heard the bang 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 on the door outside, he opened the door before the 3 of them could react. He took the talisman and stuck it on them. "What did you do?" And Kuagong was a little angry at first, but when he couldn't move, he realized something strange and couldn't help shouting in shock and anger. Lily was not afraid of him, such a useless man. She was so coaxed by the woman that she sneered and said, "Why did father-in-law come to my yard in the middle of the night? I don't care what you do. Just stay here." After saying that, she didn't want to hear An Guogong's quarrel and disturb her later. To practice martial arts, Lily went into the room and took out 2 more talismans, lit them with fire, and stuffed them into the mouths of the 3 people. Fortunately for An Kuagong, he himself has been on the battlefield. The evil aura on his body was very strong, but the 2 long followers beside him were so frightened by Lily's behavior that they could not recover. Lily's skills at the moment were not enough to summon the 100 ghosts, otherwise she would scare the living hell out of the 3 people in front of her. She closed the door and practiced martial arts all night. When the immobilization charm was about to expire, she came out and affixed one to the 3 of them. When it got daylight, the 2 attendants were naturally frightened and their faces were black and blue. This kind of immobilization charm, the people's methods are really incredible. They have never seen it before, so they are naturally frightened now. And An Kuagong's face was very ugly. He was not willing to come here to favor Mrs. Lu, but he was forced by his sweetheart. Unexpectedly, he didn't eat the meat after he came over, but stood there for a long time, especially after Mrs. Lu for half a year. After not seeing each other for a long time, there seemed to be some changes, and he felt a little nervous in his heart. When he saw Lily come out again, An Kuagong's cheeks twitched involuntarily, and he forced himself to calm down. "Ah hey, what's wrong with you? Didn't Dad come here to love you?" When Lily saw his appearance, she felt sick. Although the original owner was not the one who suffered the crime, she still felt nauseous when she thought about it. She sneered twice, "If you want to say one more thing, I will." It can really make the 3 of you love and care for each other. Although An Kuagong is lustful, his targets are only women. When he heard Lily's words, goosebumps stood up all over his body. If he dared to open his mouth again, he immediately shut up. "Say no more." After tearing off the talisman paper, the 3 people who had been standing all night collapsed on the ground. An Kuagong originally wanted to take revenge, but the 2 long followers persuaded him, "Sir, forget it, this Lu family, it's like a different person. It's so weird. If she sticks that talisman on us again, won't we have to stand there for 2 more days?" Thinking of this, An Kuagong was already old, and he had really indulged himself recently. His voice became a little calmer, and he spent a lot of energy on Lan Yu. If he continued to stand, he might really have to hand over his life here, so he hesitated for a moment and left angrily. But Nquagong was not convinced, but apart from asking Lily to go on a hunger strike, the only lesson he taught Lily was not to allow others to bring water or food to her yard. The news that Nguogong and the other two people were immobilized by Lily with talismans spread throughout the entire Nguogong's mansion in less than half a day. In the afternoon, Lan Yu, who made Lily feel a little unhappy, came over again. When she came over again this time there was no longer the same smile on his face as yesterday, but he looked a little serious. Second sister-in-law didn't expect that she is really capable. I thought yesterday that I misunderstood my sister-in-law. Lan Yu originally thought that Lily was talking nonsense about her dead relatives, but he didn't expect that she was actually capable of such a thing. She felt regretful and a little hopeful at the same time, but she also didn't know that she had guessed that Nquagong was her envoy yesterday. Although Lan Yu was very scheming, she was still young after all, and now her expression showed a bit of melancholy. Miss Lan is joking. Although Lily wants to do the task, Lan Yu is really very calculating at such a young age. If she doesn't get rid of her wariness, it's really not easy to get her to beg him, so she said. After saying this, he ignored Lan Yu and left her to sit by herself while he took a pen and paper and started drawing talisman paper. "Sister, I'm begging you, please help me. I just need to look at them, just one look." Seeing that she was silent, Lan Yu couldn't help but feel a little anxious, and shouted. Seeing that Lily didn't speak, there was a look in her eyes. Disappointment came, but she pursed her small lips, and suddenly laughed silently, as if she was not the one who was anxious just now, and leaned towards Lily. "What is sister painting?" "Don't call me sister-in-law anymore," Lily asked her without raising her head. Lan Yu showed no embarrassment on his face and smiled calmly. "You don't say anything secretly in front of Mingren. Second sister-in-law, I know you are not like them. As I said, we are all the same people in this family, so I don't want to call you sister-in-law anymore, so I'll just call you Sister Lu." Lan Yu was really smart. She knew that Lily had not left the house in the past 6 months, and she must have no intention of getting involved with the people of the Yin family. She must have talked to Qing Yuan in advance, and she must have known that Lily was raped by Nquagong for the first time. Feeling unhappy in her heart, she lowered her head and wiped her tears. "To be honest with my sister and I are also the same miserable people. Who in this family is not?" Lily looked at her singing and composing skills well, with a smile on her face, and saw Lan Yu crying so hard that he didn't say anything. After Lan Yu finished crying, he wiped his tears with a handkerchief, and then looked at Lily calmly. Said, "Why don't you speak, sister? You just listen to me. Miss Lan has a beautiful voice, it doesn't hurt to say a few more words." Lan Yu paused when he heard this, and looked towards Lily, only to see that Lily's hands kept moving, and the talisman she drew seemed to be moving. It was very smooth, but she didn't understand it at all. She couldn't help leaning her head over and ask softly, "What kind of talisman is this drawn by my sister? I heard that my sister also immobilized the Duke of the Kingdom last night. I don't know which kind it is." As soon as she finished asking, she thought Lily would not say anything. Unexpectedly, Lily smiled slightly, took out a piece of talisman and handed it to her. "Try it on yourself." As soon as she finished speaking, Lan Yu seemed a little surprised, but also seemed a little surprised and at a loss. "Did sister give it to me?" Lily nodded, with an uncertain look on her face. After the fall of the Southern Tang dynasty, she was taken to Shangjing as a prisoner of war by Nquagong. Later, she deliberately married into the Yin family. The men in the Yin family only knew how to get her. Lan Yu knew that she shouldn't want anything from Lily, but the spell was too mysterious, especially when her father once praised the wonderful Taoist spells of the Central Plains when he was alive. "I really want to try to see if it is true or not." If it is true, it means that what Lily said is also true. In the future, she can help her see her dead parents again. Thinking of this, Lan Yu hesitated in her heart. Although she knew she shouldn't owe Lily any favors, she still couldn't help but take the talisman and stick it to her body. Her body instantly stiffened and she felt unable to move. Come, she tried to move her eyes to look at Lily, but she couldn't move at all. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't move her eyes at all. Lily let her stand for a long time, then took off the talisman for her and asked softly, "Miss Lan, how do you feel after trying it?" Lan Yu didn't seem to be angry. She moved her hands and feet, and now she felt pain all over her body. After taking control of herself, a look of confusion appeared in her eyes. "It's just like what father said. It's really amazing." She lowered her head and fiddled with her clothes, revealing her thin, white, and tender chin, which was as crispy and endearing as fine lychee pulp. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 70. Her father was a forbidden area and no one else could mention it. Every time she mentioned it, she hated the Yin family even more. Lily didn't answer, Lan Yu had no intention of leaving, and didn't speak again. The two sat like this for a long time, thinking to themselves. After that, she would definitely come and sit with Lily every other day or 3 or 2 days. Even if she didn't say anything, she would always come over. Even if Lily ignored her occasionally, he wouldn't even see her. She would always come over and sit. Thanks to her, Lily, a person who was almost forgotten by the Yin family, was remembered again. There were people cleaning her yard, and the weeds were cleared. And Kuagong and others were deeply afraid of Lan Yu, the person they admired. The treasure in the palm of my hand stepped on any branch and fell, so the path she had to walk was cleaned up. Originally Lan Yu's body was very delicate, and there were many men in the Yin family. Since her poison was transmitted through intimacy, naturally the more men there were, it would be like watering flowers, making Lan Yu more beautiful. 2 months have passed, and Lan Yu, who is just 14, is like a flower in full bloom, and the allure of her already beautiful appearance has become even more attractive. "Sister, why don't you teach me how to make talismans?" She has been here more recently, and Lily doesn't bother to talk to her. Anyway, as long as no one comes to disturb her, she doesn't care whether Lan Yu is there or not. After several months of practice, her Taoist skills have made it almost impossible to do a few simple spells, and the power of the talisman has become stronger. The time it can hold a person in place has increased from the original 4 hours to more than 7 or 8 hours. Every time she draws the talisman, Lan Yu would also watch from the side, but Lily didn't care about her. Anyway, she can draw patterns on this thing. Without Taoism, the talisman paper she draws is just useless paper without power, and it is not something she can learn. Okay, when Lan Yu said that she wanted to learn how to draw talismans, Lily responded without raising her head. Lan Yu originally just said it casually. She knew that the major sects in the Central Plains were very proud of themselves, so she originally thought that she said this. Lily would definitely refuse, but unexpectedly Lily agreed. Lan Yu was stunned for a moment, his beautiful eyes flashed with a very strange look, he stared at Lily with a complicated expression for a long time, and finally said softly, "Why do you want to teach me? Aren't you afraid that I will have you learned everything?" After hanging out with Lily for such a long time, Lan Yu also knew that Lily's Taoism was truly useful. She had also used the immobilization charm, tried the taste, and even used it to immobilize her personal maid. It was indeed effective. She even casually agreed to teach herself such a magical spell. Lan Yu couldn't believe it, and was a little moved at first. Then her expression dimmed, as if she had determined in her heart that Lily was joking with her. "Don't be afraid. Aren't you one of our own?" Lily joked with Lan Yu. Seeing her eyes flashing slightly, she truly stated her purpose. "I can teach you 2 simple spells, so that you can use it immediately. But at the same time, you must also teach me the Gu technique. There are many skills that are not overwhelming." It is always good for herself to know more things, not to mention that as long as her mission does not fail, Lily can imagine that her life is almost endless. If she lives for 20 or 30 years on each mission, it will be very difficult for others. There is no end to her short life. She has plenty of time, which happens to be suitable for learning something. When Lan Yu heard Lily say that she wanted to learn Gu, her pupils shrank and her cheek muscles twitched slightly. Although she hid it very well, Lily still saw it. She looked like a snow-white powder. Her hands were clenched into fists, and her fair and transparent cheeks seemed too pink to be real for a moment. After a long while, she smiled faintly. "Sister, you really know how to joke with me. How can I, an ordinary weak woman, do that? What kind of voodoo?" At this moment, she was extremely defensive. She had been getting along with Lily recently, and Lily could feel that she had lowered her guard, and now her whole body was tense, as if she was very nervous and wary of herself. Normally, Lily knew that he had told her secret, which made Lan Yu feel a little unwilling. But since she had made the request, there was no reason to take it back. The Southern Tang dynasty is quite similar to the Miao territory. The clan members, from priests to ordinary people, will raise Gu. "Miss Lan, you are the daughter of the chief of the Southern Tang dynasty. I heard that your mother was a saint of a certain tribe back then. Most importantly, you are good at making and poisoning poisons. If Miss Lan says that you don't know how to make poisons, I don't believe it." These things were all said by Lan Yu after he took revenge, and they will naturally be mentioned in the plot. Of course Lily also knows it. But no one else knew about these things, but now Lily said it. You can imagine how scared Lan Yu was in her heart. Her lips were already trembling a little, and her body was trembling slightly. Lily glanced at her. Seeing her timid appearance, I couldn't help but feel a little pity in my heart. Thinking of what happened to her, although her last resort was a bit cruel and killed many people, it was really because her mother and sister died tragically. However, she has done so many tasks, and she is sympathetic, but she has decided what to do, but she will not change her original attitude due to the sympathy in her heart. The circles under your eyes are a little blue, has Miss Lan noticed. Lily stood up and moved closer to Lan Yu. Their cheeks were so close that each other's breath almost hit their faces. Lan Yu, for some reason, Yu's eyes became a little panicked. There was a bit of shyness in her eyes and a hint of blush on her cheeks. Such a person was dealing with many men, using her body as a weapon for revenge, and was involved with many men. Almost the girl who included all the men related to the An family seemed to be a little shy because of her approach. Lily only thought that she was angry because of shame, and it was impossible to believe that Lan Yu could be shy. She saw that a trace of Lan Yu's hair fell on her cheek, which made her palm-sized face very attractive, so Lily easily hooked her hair behind her ears, and Lan Yu's ears also turned red. Although her eyes were trying to be calm, they seemed to be so soft that they were about to drip. The reason why she took the poison herself is that while tempting men, her body will emit an intoxicating smell. At the same time, the more men there are and the more frequent sex, the more beautiful she will become. Now but the two of them stood close together, and Lily could see the flawless face, seductive body, and eyes of this beautiful girl. No, a trace of panic flashed in Lan Yu's eyes, and she turned her head away. Her chest rose and fell violently, and her eyes were covered with a layer of mist, making her eyes difficult to distinguish. There is no such thing as voodoo. It's just a rumor passed down by the world. Since she didn't want to admit it at the moment, Lily didn't force it. Anyway, it would be best if she could learn more voodoo techniques. If not, She already knew several of them. Maybe there will be a chance to do the mission again next time, so Lily didn't force it, just nodded and said nothing. Lan Yu sat there for a long time without hesitating to speak. When Lily ignored her, she left very disappointed. The next day was just like in the plot. In order to show that he treated the prisoners preferentially, the emperor gave Lan Yu several imperial edicts and gave her the title of princess. In this way, Lan Yu had more people around her, and the family the men were separated from her. Every day, Lan Yu only went to Lily's side, and all the men in An's family could see that she couldn't eat. As a result, no one could stand it after they tasted her taste. In the evening at that time, and Qingyuan came back drunk, took off his clothes and wanted to pounce on Lily. I don't know what kind of medicine you gave Xiao Yuer, so that she actually let us men go without her, and wandered around you every day. You have been away for a long time, and you must be panicking, right? I will satisfy you for once. Wait for Xiao Yuer to come tomorrow, you leave her behind, find a place to hide yourself, and come back half a day later. When Lily heard this, a feeling of nausea surged up in her heart, and she didn't even think about it. Then he kicked An Qingyuan so hard that An Qingyuan vomited blood. Only then did he wake up from the wine. Today's Lily Nine Yang magic is not said to be a great success, but it is not a surprise to deal with An Qingyuan, whose body has been emptied by women. What's more, An Qingyuan's body was poisoned, but he was a strong man on the outside, and he behaved more and more in sex. The stronger he is, the shorter his life will be. Now he still thinks that he is some kind of man who lives 10 times a night and wants to have fun with himself. Lily put a holding charm on him without thinking, and slapped An Qingyuan so many times that his face became swollen. I felt relieved. If she hadn't been able to see An Kuagong's fate after killing An Qingyuan now, he might still be wanted, and the task about Lan Yu would not be completed. Lily would like to kill An Qingyuan, this disgusting ghost. Solved. Her current holding talisman has become much more effective as her skills have deepened. She had just had breakfast the next day. When Lan Yu came over, An Qingyuan was still held there. She was so surprised that her eyes widened. Covered his mouth and laughed, "Sister, what's wrong? It's just a case of madness." I asked him to calm down, and Qingyuan was now affixed with a restraining charm and a gag charm. It was when he couldn't speak and couldn't move his body that he naturally suffered in his heart. Hearing Lan Yu's voice, he was so excited that he wanted to stare, but there was nothing he could do. He wanted to ask Lan Yu to save him. At this moment, An Qingyuan felt a little afraid of Lily, and he didn't know what method she used to rectify him. Although the immobilization charm could immobilize his body, the pain and fatigue of being unable to move his body was unstoppable. He felt it all one by one. He could no longer hold on any longer and was crying out in pain. When he saw Lan Yu's eyes, he looked like he was asking for help. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 71. Lan Yu hated the An family so much that he couldn't help but smile when he saw Lily trying to deal with An Qingyuan. "Sister, this is the joy of the boudoir, right? Why don't we move to talk so as not to delay, sister?" she asked knowingly, and Lily didn't expose her. She just didn't want to see An Qingyuan, a disgusting man. She nodded and agreed happily, and went into the inner room with Lan Yu. "Sister, really want to learn Gu?" Lan Yu somehow managed to stare at Lily with shining eyes. Lily instinctively felt that something was wrong, but after thinking about it, she didn't notice anything strange. She really wanted to learn voodoo, but it wasn't for any shady purpose, it was just to cover up others' eyes and ears, and she didn't have to worry about it. I'm afraid Lan Yu didn't want others to know that she knew how to do voodoo. With Lily's admission, Lan Yu's scallop-like jade teeth were revealed, and she bit her lower lip, with a firm look in her eyes, Then I'll teach you, sister. Lily nodded and went outside to get some paper. In that case, do you want to learn how to draw talismans, or do you want to learn spells? There is actually a spell. Lan Yu did not answer Lily's words, but asked curiously. Seeing Lily's response, her beautiful eyes showed admiration. My father admired the most during his lifetime. I am lucky enough to be able to hear magic and Taoism, so how dare I learn it? To be honest with my sister, you can also see that I am poisoned by poison. I am afraid that I will not survive for long. I will not learn those. If it is a bit strange, weird things, it would be helpful if my sister told me. Unexpectedly, this cruel girl would sometimes give without receiving anything in return, which made Lily feel a little horrified at the same time. She also wondered if Lan Yu had a worse idea, but she thought about her current strength. Even if Lan Yu wanted to plot something against her, she was not afraid of Lan Yu as long as she had the strength, so she hesitated and nodded. Complied. Sister, aren't you afraid that I will plot against you? Unexpectedly, as soon as Lily thought this, Lan Yu asked with a smile. Her eyes seemed to be filled with tenderness and a kind of struggle. It looks stunningly beautiful. Lily shook her head and laughed too. How could you plot against me? What do you have in me that is worthy of plotting against me? You don't even learn Taoism, so why are you plotting against me? As soon as she finished speaking, Lan Yu lowered his head and fiddled with the corners of his clothes. When he raised his head, a slight smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. His expression looked very well behaved. Sister, I am satisfied if you believe me. I only want my mother's things. It would be nice if someone could know it and pass it on for her. But sister, please promise me that after you finish studying, you will go far away. Angia, Angia. Angia is really not suitable for you to stay. She meant a lot as she said this. Lily knew the inside story, and knew that if she let him go now, she might have had the intention of letting him go, so she couldn't help but be a little surprised. And Qingyuan, don't let him touch you again. He is poisonous and will be infected with you. He will die. If he has any thoughts next time, sister can remember to put a talisman on him. Lan Yu got close to Lily again. A warning. She carries a faint and very fragrant fragrance. Lily knows that her poison will eventually make her as beautiful as a peach and plum, and she will be the most beautiful woman in the world. This is simply faster than her ability to increase her attribute values, and the strange fragrance on her body it became more and more intense, and in the end, the men stopped having sex with her. After just one whiff of her fragrance, they became intoxicated, flustered, and impulsive. Other women could no longer save their situation. At this moment, Lily didn't know how Lan Yu could suddenly change his mind. She wished all the people in the Yin family would die, so how could she have any kindness towards her? Originally, Lily thought Lan Yu was deceitful and had some thoughts. He thought that there was nothing worthy of her calculations about him, so he could just be more careful when dealing with her in the future. She herself has martial arts and Taoism. Although Lan Yu's poison is magical, the worst result is just being poisoned by her poison. If she wants to harm herself, she doesn't have to remind herself not to let An Qingyuan touch her just now. She knew that Lan Yu might let her go for inexplicable reasons now, but Lan Yu was one of the people related to the mission, and she didn't like to owe Lan Yu a lot for no reason, so she hesitated. Since you don't want to learn Taoism, if I can help you in any way in the future, I will agree to your request. When Lan Yu heard this, she suddenly laughed inexplicably, and her eyes curled up in laughter. Like a crescent moon, she looks very playful and cute, with a bit of freshness in her charm. She tilted her head and looked at Lily for a long time, as if to swear, I won't be polite, but please don't forget it, sister. Because learning the art of Gu can't be accomplished in 3 or 2 days, Lan Yu seemed a little anxious, so at first he asked Lily to memorize the names of some herbs and insects. By the way, she would also bring a scroll for her when she came here every day, which was all it was about Gu insects. Lily would read it all and memorize it by force before reading her second book. As a result, Lan Yu came to Lily more frequently. As time went by, the two of them had quite a tacit understanding. Every day when Lily was memorizing Gu books, Lan Yuna also took some story novels and nestled in her room to read them. She was squeezed into a small ball on the chaise longue, looking petite but also a little deserted and pitiful. As time went by, Lily's hard-hearted heart couldn't help but soften a little. After more than a month, she memorized the Gu book very well, and she didn't find it annoying to do these boring tasks every day. She just repeated the same thing day after day. In his daily life, he quickly memorized all the Gu books that Lan Yu brought over. At the same time, he also took a pen and paper to copy and draw several copies until he could recognize the herbs when he saw them and knew what they did. Lan Yu then started to teach her the second step. To be honest, raising voodoos is not a difficult thing. One gu tong is 100 gus association. I have the experience of feeding voodoo worms once. As long as you take good care of them, they will not die at the beginning. Later, the voodoo worms will become stronger and stronger. It's not that easy to hope that it will die. Lily has already started experimenting with cultivating her second gu worm, so Lan Yu comes to see it every day and talk to Lily by the way. Sister is really talented at raising voodoos. If my mother were still here and saw this, I would probably be too late to meet my sister. Lan Yu had a hint of pity in his eyes, speaking in a very complicated way. He glanced at Lily with his eyes. As long as you remember the way of voodoo insects and know how to feed them, it will be easy to detoxify them. Knowing the habits of voodoo insects, he memorized what Lan Yu gave him and knew how to treat them. It's not impossible to lure them out or kill them. Lily nodded. Lan Yu had become much more charming recently, which showed that she never stopped her steps every day. Lily hesitated for a moment. Although she knew that the person in front of her was the target of her mission and she shouldn't talk too much to her, people were not grass and trees. After being together for such a long time, even a stone should be melted. She sighed. Glanced at Lan Yu, her eyes had become more and more alluring blue, which was a sign that the gu insect was powerful, but also because of this, the more powerful the gu insect was, the stronger her attraction to men would be. Later, when her eyes all turned blue, it was not easy to lure the gu insects out. Miss Lan, since you taught me the art of gu, you should know that your situation can no longer be delayed. A very sweet smile appeared on Lan Yu's face, and his eyes were so soft that they seemed to be dripping with water. Sister, don't worry about me. To be honest, I never thought about living. If it weren't for you, sister. When she said this, her tone paused. I know that sister is different from the rest of the N family. You are better than them. I tell you quietly, they all deserve to die and will die. There was a sarcastic look on her face, a pair of eyes filled with deep-seated resentment, and her pretty red lips raised a cold smile. Looking at that look, Lily knew that nothing she could say would be of any use. I don't care how you want to make them pay, but you'd better prepare a way out. When things get better here, I might leave too. The first generation of the Lu family didn't know why Lily Lu was in chaos. The thing is, Lan Yu did not hook up with the men of the Lu family as in the plot, but instead allowed the Lu family to escape disaster. In this way, the original owner's two tasks were completed, and Lan Yu wanted to get what he wanted. Lily couldn't think of any good method for the time being, so she naturally gave it up. She had already prepared that this mission might not be completely completed, so she was not too disappointed at the moment. Lan Yu didn't seem surprised that she already knew his plan. There was no look of shock on his face. Instead, his eyes widened in surprise. Sister said she wanted to leave. Do you want to come with me? Lily has no good place to go yet. After hearing what she said, she couldn't help but curiously asked, where are you going? Lan Yu showed a complicated look in his eyes and gritted his teeth. I don't know, I have a big enemy like Ruo. The world is so big, you can call home anywhere. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Lily timidly. Sister hasn't answered my question yet, is sister going to join me in the future? If sister is willing, you is also willing to give up everything and find out the secret recipe to cure the poison. Hearing this, Lily felt a little uncomfortable. She shivered messily, glanced at Lan Yu, and guessed that she must have made a mistake. Lan Yu had so many ministers under his skirt, and the families, although he is a bad person, he really loves her now. It should not be what she imagined. But even though she thought this in her heart, Lily still had goosebumps all over her body and said vaguely, "I don't have an idea yet, I'm afraid I just want to travel around the mountains and rivers." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation.